which is why you have a gene ecology lab in Tromsø. Because, Terje Travik started out doing genetic engineering and realized the results he was getting was different from what he was expecting. And so they've gone into the deeper search. And I don't think ever before in history has a blind technology led an economic development. And the reference to the Gulf oil spill, the top kill was supposed to seal it. They're throwing that away. They can't figure it out. You can't do technology, especially where it's related to living resources, living systems that are released into the environment, and there is no recall. At least the oil people, they're going around on the beaches, poor people trying to work. You can't send anyone out to recall a gene that is contaminating. And, we've done surveys on the soils. 25% beneficial soil organisms have disappeared in 6 years of planting. On the issue of patenting of life forms and the patenting of living organisms and the patenting of seeds, these are issues under intense debate. The WTO clause that I mentioned was up for review since 1999. There are mountains of paper saying that patents on life don't have either an ethical basis or an epistemological basis. You grant a patent for an invention. Living resources are not inventions. All you're doing is modifying them. And, if I bring a chair from the outside and put it into this building, and then I claim this house of literature is mine, and all of you should be sending me rents in India, you'll say she's crazy. The entire patenting of life and seed is based on this craziness, and I think it should stop. I think Ignacio wants to say.
Yeah, Arild and then.
Well, I think we should make GMO the new tobacco, but I think we should, of course, look at the other criteria in the guidelines. And I think for me, there is an unacceptable risk that GMO can cause severe environmental damage. I'm not quite sure if everyone else will think the same way, but there is a reason that we have we don't have a ban in Norway, but so far we have not permitted any agricultural crops being commercially imported or used in Norway. And I think the whole world is thinking that, well, how long can this last? Because in contradiction to tobacco, where everyone knows that tobacco is becoming less popular worldwide, for some reason we think that the GMO will be kind of the opposite. This will only grow and we just have to accept it one day. But I think we should try to really turn that argument around, because I think we don't exactly know what we're doing when we introduce these commercially GMO crops. And we also know enough that we don't need to do that. We can focus on other ways of bringing enough food for the world's poor and what we need in the world. So I don't think we should put ourselves in the place of God and try to, in that way, manipulate the natural organisms.
Hello. I'm going to be a little bit nerdy here, and I'm sorry, media people, if I don't give you your one soundbite that you need, because the question was nerdy, and I think it deserves a response in that. It's not pejorative that I'm doing this. I think the right answer, if you ask me, the right framing is what Vandana just did, which is there are places where you just don't go. But you are asking whether the patenting of these specific things, and it's hard to know what it is being patented, is reductionist per se. And I think the answer is yes, because you have to patent one thing. You have to remember that the whole thing hinges on a very, very disputed case, the Chakrabarti case, that didn't get passed only after a second review and barely. And then from then on, it's a cascade of events that come down. And one of the reasons why they couldn't patent was that it was very difficult to define what you were patenting. Were you patenting that bacterium? Were you patenting a specific part of it? What were you patenting? For a while, the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, tried to patent individual base pairs or small sequences of base pairs in the DNA. And they couldn't get away with it because that didn't make any sense in terms of, not even a patent officer could wrap it in a way that would be digestible, and they're really good at doing that. So what they came up with was that concept of the gene. So what they claim to patent is a gene, a particulate basis of information that is the basis of life, and it's the basis of the language that God used to write the book of life, and so on and so forth and so forth. We know today that that is really a failed paradigm. We know that the central dogma of molecular biology is just such a thing, a dogma, that you're not supposed to question, because when you start questioning, you discover that what we used to call a gene doesn't mean anything. And what I think is really critical to recognize here is that that drive that became a political and economic drive preempted the study of all the other alternatives for understanding what was going on with the genome that would have been really important to put in place 30 years ago when this was all happening. And that's just one of the many examples of how this reductionistic approach and this way of doing so-called science, because I agree, this is not really based on very sound science, and I wouldn't even call it a technology, because we don't know what we're doing. We're tinkering with it and hoping that something will come out. But doing that type of approach has prevented us from looking at the things that we should have been looking at 30 years ago. And now it might be too late.
Thank you. Other questions, please? Guy over here wanted to ask.
Shall we take 2-3
we'll take a
questions
couple
at once?
Yeah. And if you could state just briefly who you are.
Yeah. My name is Axel Nærstad. Hello, Vandana. I'm from the Norwegian Development Fund. I do agree with Grauer that the guidelines have different aspects, but I think it's no doubt that at the end, the political, in a way, pressure is the important when we talk about GMOs now. And I do agree with let's make this into the tobacco case. I think we have to use some of the same evidence-based, but I think at the end it's depends on what kind of political campaign we can raise in Norway. Also, I just want to underline that this is a very strong political battle. We had the GMO conference here in 2003, organized by the government and civil society, with also Monsanto among the panelists. The General Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, Per Harald Grue, who had been in that position for 20 years, said very openly in the preparation of that conference that he, in his career, had never ever been under such a political pressure as he was from the US Embassy in Norway. Other ministries confirmed that. The Minister of Environment, the Ministry of Industry said it pretty openly. So this is a political battle. I think we have a network against GMOs in Norway. Very good and wide network. There is a huge international campaign against GMOs. There's a lot of evidence. And I do agree with Vandana. Norway can play a key role in this because we have a good law on biotechnology, because we don't use GMOs, because we have a better possibility to put pressure on the parliament and better access to ministers than in many other countries. So I think we should take that challenge from Vandana and say, okay, yes, we are going to now really increase our effort to not only ban GMOs in Norway, but to play a crucial role in the global fight against GMOs. And one step is to ban Monsanto from the pension fund abroad. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Hello, my name is Amit Srivastava. I'm a researcher at the Norwegian Institute of International Affairs. And my field is corruption, one of the issues which is very important to look. And most of the things we have looked from Norwegian perspective, and corruption was one of the forefront issues a couple of years, and it's continuing. What is the biggest problem in India is lying at the heart of our own system also at the same